Welcome everyone. This is Andres Restart. Hopefully, I am not muted. I am not muted. That is a good sign. And yes, this is Andres Restart. That right there is my friend Brandon, my co-host. And we're gonna be talking about Nintendo tonight, as we typically do. The general plan for the evening, not that there's any exact thing we have to hold ourselves to, because we're a little bit more fluid here, more flexible.
Mm.
We're going to be focusing on talking about our updated perspectives on when Switch 2 is going to be revealed. I thought it would be a good idea to do something like this tonight because I've continued to see questions on, oh, well, do you still think Switch 2 is getting revealed in March? Because I did make a video, in February, where I was like, hey, yeah, I think Switch 2 is going to happen. And then 2 or 3 days later, 7 or 8 different reports came out saying, hey, Nintendo has internally delayed the console to early next year. At the earliest. And so I think that changes everything. And so I would like to, I've voiced it before that I don't think this is happening quite the same way anymore, but I thought it would be a good idea to have kind of like a discussion and a little bit of a back and forth on what we think now after the reports. And then going beyond that, we do have a new Animal Crossing rumor, which is interesting. So Brandon actually, I wasn't even sure I was gonna talk about it, but Brandon was like, hey, I got some thoughts. So I was like, all right, well, It did happen after the podcast last week, right? So we probably should talk about it. And you know that I've had some recent thoughts on Zelda, as I tend to do. So we're probably gonna talk about that as well. And then whatever you guys bring up in the chat, that's fair game too. And that's the plan for the evening. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I've been playing a lot of Switch demos lately. So I finished the Princess Peach Showtime demo. I finished the Pepper Grinder demo, which is an indie game shown off in the last direct. And then another indie game that was shown off in the last direct, Unicorn Overlord. I almost beat the demo for that. It's a very long demo. I'm like 2 or 3 hours in the demo, and I'm still not done. So it's a very, very beefy demo. You can do a lot in that demo. But they're all great. I actually really had fun with all of them. I think the only thing about the demos is the Princess Peach demo was I don't think a great showcase for that game necessarily.
Maybe
because it seemed like it was almost too early into the game.
It was the beginning.
Yeah, it was just the beginning levels. I think you get to play 2 or 3 levels. It's I can see the potential of the game. I think I'll really end up enjoying it. It feels like it's kind of similar to Kirby, in a way, in the fact that it's not super hard, but there's a lot of fun things to do and a lot of creative
I mean, it's made by Goodfeel, right? Who've made the Yoshi games, and that's kind of their mantra. So yeah,
which I do really like the Yoshi games. So.
Well, okay, I made the assumption that it's made by Goodfield just for clarity. We don't know for a fact, but based off the data mine, the way it's been sort of codenamed, it's highly implicative that it's Goodfield. So which feels like a pretty good bet because right now we've been getting a lot of outsourced projects, be it remakes, remasters, or if it is a new game that's made by an outside studio like Goodfield. They're not wholly owned by Nintendo. They do make Nintendo games, but not always. So that's what some people like to refer to as second party. But yeah, so, a lot of non-internal Nintendo teams are making Nintendo games right now.
Right.
And it kind of all makes sense. Yeah, I played the demo too, Brandon. And I didn't like it as much. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I didn't like it enough that I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy this. I liked it enough to be like, okay, this is cool, but I'm probably not going to buy it unless it's really discounted and I'm extremely bored.
I actually enjoyed it more, mainly because not even because of the content of the demo, because as I said, I don't think the demo content itself was a very good pick. I think they should have picked later stuff that was more interesting. I think I can see the potential of it getting a lot better. I just have the feeling, and maybe this isn't true, maybe the whole game is just kind of like this, but I have the feeling these are very much just more simple tutorial levels. They're very short, and a lot of it was just teaching you how to play the game, essentially. But there was a lot of stuff I really enjoyed, like the mini games. For the chef one, I actually thought that the mini games were kind of hard. I did not pass those first try. It took me a couple tries to pass both of the
yeah.
mini
So
games. And I didn't even get all of the because there's like stars or something you collect. I forget exactly what they
yeah,
are.
like if you're just going for completion, it's easy. But if you're going for the stars, there's actually some challenge there.
Yeah.
And so that is interesting, right? Like I can't hide behind the oh I only like challenging games perspective because at least based off the first two levels, I had to replay them a couple times to get the
Yeah.
100% of all the stars.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't get
I
any
don't know.
100% levels, and none of them the first try.
I think what it is, it's just like the core gameplay feels too simplistic for me. It's and that I think I don't know that between there's just not enough um spectacle to really draw me in
Mhm.
personally, if that makes any sense. So I'm just not. It's not bad. It's good. Like I don't
Right.
really want to speak ill of the game. It's just not. It's just not for me. That's just how I feel about it. I'm not. I don't feel. I don't feel like I'm. By let me just say it in this way. I'm not gonna buy the game. And
Mhm.
if I hear people talking about the game and saying it's good, and be like, oh, cool. But I'm not gonna feel left out. I'm not.
Mm.
I'm not gonna. What's the FOMO? Fear of missing out. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get
Totally.
that. I'm just gonna be like, all right, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I don't care. Like that. That's kind of how I feel about it. If that makes any
Mm.
sense. It just doesn't draw me in enough.
I'm still waiting to see reviews because I have a feeling that the rest of the game is a lot more interesting than the parts that they showed. Like I can see the potential for this game. I just feel like I hadn't
Yeah,
gotten to it
and
yet.
I bet they could build on it. Absolutely. And I don't want to say 100% I will never buy the game, but I don't feel like buying the game day one. Like it's just not.
Gotcha.
I'm just not that hyped for it. But
That's fair.
I think the animation work is high quality, right? Like I like
Oh
how
yeah.
she
No, the
she
visuals are
holds
great.
her dress up as she moves around. I noted this on Nintendo Prime's podcast last week, but like when I was playing the demo, and I live streamed the demo, so you
Right.
can
Yeah.
kind of see my reactions live if you want to. But I like I noticed that there's like a rail, and if you don't have to go this way, you can just walk down the stairs. But if you go towards the back of the scene, Peach will ride the rail, which is cool. Like
Oh.
there are nice little details, and I did find it fun. Just it wasn't. It's just not. It's just not fun enough for me to feel like I want to get it. That it's just that
Mm.
simple. Like I guess
Gotcha.
it's like a 7 out of 10 game for me, a 7.5. But
The
I don't
other
know.
interesting thing about that demo is it I mean it didn't run terribly for to be fair, but it didn't run with the kind of polish I would expect from a Nintendo game. Like it felt like it was barely functioning on Switch at sometimes, especially when it was loading. Like those load screens were just jerky and stuttery and they looked like the game was going to actually crash. Like the game almost looks like it's butting up against some kind of technical limitation.
I don't know.
Um,
Could be just some things will polish up by launch. I want if I'm not
Perhaps it's very
mistaken, I
close to
feel like
launch though.
when they show the curtains, there was like some frame drops randomly for whatever reason, which
Yeah,
isn't
there
even
was a
rendering
lot of
much. It's just
random
rendering
frame
curtains.
drops.
Yeah. You know what's funny though, Brandon? I want to get into the chat in a moment because there's a few questions and that I want to get to it.
Right.
But it sounds a little hypocritical, but I want this Princess Peach Showtime kind of like wave is reminding me, oh, you should probably go back and play Yoshi's Crafted World because I never
Ah,
picked up Yoshi's Crafted World.
it's a pretty good game. Not as good as Whirly
Yeah,
World, but it's still definitely worth playing.
I mean, what I remember playing Yoshi's Crafted World the demo, and I remember liking that demo more than I did for Princess Peach Showtime. And
Mm,
I guess I just felt like there's a little bit more to do. It was a little bit more engaging for me. Maybe I like Yoshi more as a character. There could be something to that.
mm.
But I also found the visuals more interesting back then. Um,
The
but
visuals are
funny
great.
thing, the game's still $60.
Oh God.
Yeah, even though it came out 6 years ago. So it is funny how that works out, but I think I'd be happier playing Yoshi's Crafted World than Princess Peach
Could
Showtime.
probably find a used copy
Like,
somewhere for cheap.
yeah,
Buy one from somebody maybe.
yeah. Yoshi, Having Hope's asking, Yoshi's Crafted World is on Switch. Not to confuse it with Yoshi's Woolly World, which came out for Wii
Wii
U
U
and was
later
ported
ported.
to 3DS.
Yes.
Yeah. But let's check in with the chat real quick here.
All right.
I see here Adam Rohn, been a member for 11 straight months. Glad to have you here. Says yo to you as well.
Yo.
How are you? But going into the chat here, a few different things. Let's see here. Axel Gallardo says, I reckon they will reveal the Switch 2 in July at the Summer Direct. Maybe. I think it's interesting you suggest July, because typically we have the Summer Directs in June. But
Right.
if we did just get a partner showcase in February, right? So the pattern could be different, right? And if we assume it's going to be an April Direct, maybe they have a Summer Direct later into the summer to kind of balance things out a bit. So,
Right.
yeah, all right. Like, I don't think that's a crazy prediction. It's reasonable. Inspector Voids here says, Bay just repeats what Nintendo Prime said about Dragon Ball League thing, summer 2024. Meh. Well, I don't even really plan on talking about the rumors or leaks because I'm like, it's just kind of having a discussion. We're not even sure. We're going to have a discussion and see how we feel about it. So it is what it is. But we'll get to that a little bit later into the discussion. Moving on, though. Hello there, Having Hope. Hello there, Sky Swords Alyssa. Thank you for letting me know that everything looks and sounds great. I appreciate that. Boo Mini, hello there. Joycey J, hello. Thank you for modding. Cereal Milk DVD. Bet $5 he says the same thing he always does about Switch 2. Jesus, what is with the trolls today?
Yeah, I saw that. I made a comment. I was like, ooh, the haters. They're fueling the fires in our souls. Yes.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Because I see comments like, all right, so yesterday I put out a Zelda video that I felt pretty good about. Like, I actually was happy about the video. And I was looking at, like, the last, like, I take a look at what videos I've put out lately. And I was like, oh, I haven't made, like, a dedicated Zelda video in a while. And I really want to. I've mentioned the 2D Zelda thing for a bit, but I haven't done, like, a significant dedicated segment to the 2D Zelda stuff. But also since the Switch 2 reports the Switch 2 delay, my thoughts on the Ocarina of Time remake I think that's worth updating on. And I think it was also worth updating on my thoughts on the Zelda remasters with the partner showcase happening and the Switch 2 delay. And so there's a lot of different like Zelda things that I've talked about. They're like, okay, well, we have news that updates on that. And also I found an article from way back when that has more implications about the future of 2D Zelda. So I was like, oh, okay. I haven't talked about Zelda for like a dedicated video about Zelda for like in terms of like games coming up in like a while. And I have new updated thoughts and new information to present. So I made a video about it. Most people seem to enjoy that, but I was like, oh, some people are like saying I just talked about the same thing, but I don't think I did. Yeah, there are things that I've mentioned in the past that I'm going to relay again, especially because if someone hasn't seen a prior video, then they have no idea what I'm referring to. So there's that. But then when I make a video about something completely new, you don't see those people. Like today, we talked about a whole bunch of different racing games that, like the Nintendo has that they could do, right? Like we talked about 1080, snowboarding. We talked about Wave Race. We talked about F-Zero. We talked about Kirby Air Ride. Like those things were discussed today. You don't see those people in those videos. And so what I think there's a little bit of a YouTube algorithm problem because, for example, I've been watching Black Clover lately, right? And so I just caught up to the Black Clover anime. Actually, like there are some parts that I'm kind of but overall I really enjoyed that Black Clover.
That's hilarious because I remember when it was first coming out, I was watching Black Clover and you were like, this sucks. This is trash. Why are you watching this? I was like, no, man, it's pretty good.
I gave up on it because there are parts that are kind of but like it overall, it gets really good. Yeah, I actually really like it now. So yeah, it is funny how that works out, right? But sometimes the animation studios get better. We get to see more of the story, and you get to see more of what they're trying to do. And so, anyways, but like, getting to the point though, like I finished Black Clover recently. I was like, all right, time to dive into like the YouTube videos of Black Clover theories, right? And so I saw some videos from some different like anime content creators, right? Now all I see is Black Clover videos by them, but I know that they make more than Black Clover videos, but I only see those on my feed. So I think some people might be under the impression that there are certain creators that only talk about Switch 2 or only talk about this. But if you actually check their channel, no, they talk about a whole bunch of other things as well. Same thing here. So I think the YouTube algorithm is actually misleading a lot of people.
Mm.
Like, actually check their channels. Also, if all you see is Switch 2, then that shows what you're clicking on.
Yeah.
So,
The algorithm kind of is built around what you're watching. You can change it by searching for something else.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I kind of get annoyed when I only get suggested the same things too.
Oh yeah.
But I don't blame the creator for that, because I think that would be, one, hypocritical, but also it's kind of asinine. So, but yeah, it's weird. I think the algorithm definitely misleads a lot of people.
Yeah.
But anyways, going through the chat, Nish Quick Pops asks, where are you at in Elden Ring? All right, let's talk a little bit about Elden Ring. Why not? But
Sure.
this is a Nintendo channel.
But Elden Ring might come to Switch too.
It might come to Switch too, exactly. And I would say there's a lot of Zelda and Metroid-esque themes in the Soulsborne games in general.
Oh yeah.
You can definitely feel the fingerprint there, I would say, or the DNA. I have two of the. I think there's at least 5 great runes to collect. I have 2. So if we're to kind of, a great rune is basically like a sage in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, if we're looking for an equivalent, I think that's actually a pretty close approximation. And you can kind of do them. I don't know if there's I think there's some structure to the game. Like, you have to do some things, but for the most part, you can kind of do things out of order. So I have 2 great runes. I've been going back and forth. I beat Raya Lucaria. I beat the dragon with the blue fire. I discovered the land all the way to the east, the dragon area all the way to the east, and that's like a really high level area that I am not supposed to be at. And so I've been exploring that, and I went hunting with my friend I got my friend and I, we were just, co-oping, and we just got our formula down, and we hunted all the dragons in the Dragon's Barrow, aside from one really big black dragon. But we killed a giant old dragon, which gives a lot of XP.
Nice.
Yeah, no, so we got good at killing a lot of the basic dragons, which are actually at first seem kind of challenging. Like, they're not bosses, but they seem like bosses. So yeah, I've been leveling up. I'm like level 76 right now. I'm still running the bleed set, and it's a good time. I enjoy having a lot of boss fights. I enjoy kind of learning the movesets for enemies and dodging them and getting better. That's definitely a very me thing. And I've been enjoying it a lot. It's been good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Moving on with the chat here. JR Toki Atsy looking good with a goatee. I feel like I usually have hair here, but what I'm doing differently, I'm gonna shave it soon. I just want to kind of see how it would look.
I think it looks good though.
I'm running with the mustache.
I like the mustache.
It does make me look slightly older. I look like I could have a 1-year-old child as a, I could be a really young dad. Like, I look like I could. Or I look like, a starving musician, which, it's not too different from a YouTuber. So,
yeah, yeah.
I would put it under the category of a starving artist.
Yeah, you're an artist.
Yeah,
creating art.
I do
content.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I actually got a haircut today, so it doesn't look great because, like, the reason we're doing the podcast a little bit later tonight is because, well, one, I got out the video, and then I ate dinner, and I had to do a couple like little errands, and I was like, oh, I need to get a haircut. I've been needing to get a haircut for a while, and so I found an appointment at 6:30. Went there, but there was a car accident, so I was late for my appointment. So he still took me, but that delayed things. And then my friend is going out of the country next at the end of the week, so we kind of decided to have a gym session today because I've been going with a group of friends to the gym regularly recently, and so we moved the gym today, right? So that pushed up the podcast, and then it was taking longer, so I pushed it from 8:30 to 8:45, and we were mostly on time. But yeah, it's been hectic. I haven't really been able to stop for most of the day, but it's been fun getting stuff done. So it's been all good. And I have a mustache. Yeah. Happy money to you as well, Boo Mini. Oh, Gauge Boss is asking, have I played Tunic? No, I have not played Tunic. I really want to play Tunic.
Yeah,
I
I
want
want to
to
play
play
as well.
Tunic.
I definitely
Yeah.
need to play a lot more indie games. Like every time I play an indie game, I'm like, man, I love indie games. Indie games are so great. And then every time it's like, oh, should I buy this indie game? Something in my brain's like, nah, don't do it. And I don't know what it is, but I love indie games, so I should play more of them.
Yeah, I want to play. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play Tunic. I want to. It
I
looks
think
like most
sometimes
of the
I
chat is
forget.
saying that I should not shave the mustache.
Nah,
So
yeah, I don't think you should shave it.
I will keep the mustache. I'm getting used to feeling hair here though, because I normally just shave it off. But you know, if I'm used to hair here, I'll get used to hair here. It gives me something else to play with. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so used to AAA games being so long that I forget that you can just go play an indie game and have a nice little concise experience. You don't have to take so much time in. And I would do that
True.
so much more often if I just thought about it. But I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Days of Old asks in the chat, yo, is you gonna play Peach live when it comes out, Andre? I am not gonna play it live. I was just saying that I'm not really feeling it.
Mm.
Yeah. But I did stream the demo. So, you know. Yeah. But I am doing what I am gonna do, if you guys saw the community poll, I'm planning on doing this on Thursday. Is Thursday a good time to stream it? Like, it's a good time for me, but because I think it comes out Friday. Who cares? It's fine. Yeah. So I'm thinking on Thursday I'm going to start the Tears of the Kingdom stream. And so, yeah, like the basic plan is I'm gonna start Tears of the Kingdom from scratch, and the base rule is it's gonna be a 4 heart run. You can't get any new heart containers, but every stream we're gonna add a new rule. And that's going to be an additional rule that I have to kind of abide by, right? And so I put a poll, and at first I put in that poll isn't necessarily the answer because you guys made some good suggestions, but maybe I'll use those suggestions as like a second option later. But actually, feel free to suggest it now. Like, what's a good challenge, a good rule we can place for me for the Great Sky Island? Because the first stream is going to be covering the Great Sky Island. Maybe I get past that point, but you know. Most of the stream is probably gonna be the Great Sky Island, so it would be interesting if we could come up with a rule that is for the Great Sky Island. Because, like, for example, currently the poll that was winning is no paraglider, and that would be an interesting challenge. But here's the thing: you don't get the paraglider until after the Great Sky Island. So how do we make the Great Sky Island stream interesting? Because also 4 hearts, that's normal to have at the beginning of the game. So yeah, if you guys could come up with something interesting as a challenge for the Great Sky Island part, we can do that to kind of start. I see a lot of you saying no fusing. Is that even possible? Because don't we have to get don't we have to get, like, don't you need fusing to beat one of the shrines? Or does it just make it easier?
Do you ever need to fuse? I mean, maybe because like Master Hand is different, so I guess you don't really ever. I don't think you ever need to fuse. That I'm thinking of.
I like the no armor idea, but it doesn't seem like it would make it slightly harder, MGD, but it wouldn't make it extremely more difficult.
Fusing, not being able to fuse would be pretty hard because a lot of the stuff that you get on the Sky Island is very, very weak unless you fuse it with something. It'd be like mostly like sticks. And stuff, which I feel like they break even faster than Breath of the Wild because fusing exists, but I don't know if that's
okay. I mean, well, Joycey puts here the qualifier: no fusing unless you're in a shrine.
Okay.
All right. I mean, okay, maybe, maybe. I don't want to get rid of the fuse ability from my playthrough. I saw some people suggest that because I just feel like it would take away from just like the different things you could do in the game. Like I like the idea of placing rules to force us to get even more and more creative And so I wonder if we do like no fuse for the whole game, it'll get to a point where it's just kind of like, all right, well, I'm just throwing sticks forever. I don't know.
Right.
So I don't want to make a decision right now. I'm going to consider some options and then I'll come to a conclusion. Um, Captain Doge, no genocide run, a pacifist run. I don't know.
Mm. I don't think that's
Yeah,
possible. You can't beat the
yeah.
game without killing at least,
Gauge boss, I
10.
do like the idea of no fast traveling. To be honest with
Okay.
you, I barely fast travel in my games because I do fast travel, but I like, especially in Zelda, I like to kind
Mm.
of smell the roses. If I can
Yeah,
get on my horse and ride around, I'll probably do that.
I definitely did that for Breath of the Wild, but I did not for Tears of the Kingdom.
Hmm. Yeah, so I'm gonna think on it. But let me get to the super chat here, and we'll jump into the discussion. But feel free to make suggestions throughout the stream. All right, Taker. Thank you for super chat, buddy. Taker says, I feel like Nintendo flubbed the release of Prime Remastered. How long of a marketing build do you think Prime 4 needs? More than Dread got?
Hmm.
Um, mm,
Hmm. I'm curious how much of the general Nintendo, like just people who own a Nintendo Switch, right? How many of them are aware of Prime 4? Because obviously, anybody who's a big Nintendo fan, whether you are a Prime fan or not, probably knows what Metroid Prime 4 is, right? But I still feel like it needs a good amount of marketing to show people why they should get into the series. But
all
I
right,
don't know.
so
Think it needs more than Dread. Maybe about as much as Dread or a little less. Dread got so much marketing. It's like one of the most
Dread got a
marketed
lot.
games. Period.
Yeah, it was so awesome. It was a good time. Um, this is tricky, right? Because I remember in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom, like, save for that we got a couple trailers, right? Like, since it was
Mm.
announced. But outside of those couple small trailers, like, I remember the discussion being that Nintendo's not talking about Tears of the Kingdom. We know next to
Right.
nothing about this game, and it's coming out in less than 2 months, and they haven't told us squat. Like, I remember, I was at PAX last year, and we had not gotten any. When I was at PAX is when we put out the rumor video that they
Right.
were about to give us a presentation, and people were like, "Oh, how
Yeah.
dare you talk about this?" But it was true. Um, and it's just, so that was almost a year ago, right? So it was March, like
Yeah.
late March is when we got the like that gameplay demonstration for Tears of the Kingdom. And before that, all we had gone were like two 90-second trailers and one 2-minute trailer. That was all we had
Right.
gone for Tears of the Kingdom before that point. And so that was less than 2 months between that demonstration and the release of the game. Now there was another final trailer, and that was kind of it. Like, it was enough, but and then there was the preview event. No, there was more things that came out, but it was basically like that big marketing period we were sort of waiting for was less than 2 months for Tears of
Yeah.
the Kingdom. Like, yes, you can argue they were marketing it for a couple of years, kind of, but in terms of like that active, constant mentioning on social media, previews coming out, interviews happening, the actual footage of the game, gameplay, like that started less than 2 months before release.
Mm.
So or about 2 months for release. And Tears of the Kingdom is about as big as it gets, right? Um, I don't know if Prime 4 needs to have as long of a period of time, because Nintendo has shown that they have a big game that has a short window. I remember Super Mario 3D All Stars, which is a remaster compilation, but
Mm.
it had a 2-week window between announcement and release. And then with Metroid Dread, that was shown at E3. There was nothing. There was no. It was announced June 2021, came out October 2021. That's what, July, August, September, October. Was a 4-month window.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do for Prime 4. To be honest with you, like, I feel like they could almost have like a re-reveal of it, and market it for 9 months, or they can market it for 3 months. I honestly
Yeah.
think Either
So hard to
way, it would
say.
be fine for them.
I think it kind of depends on like when it's coming out, but like, because if it's going to be a cross-gen game with Switch 2, they don't even have to show it off till like when they show off that system. So I guess we might see it whenever that is. But even if it is a cross-gen game, they could decide to show it off as early as like the April Direct if they wanted to. So it really just depends on what Nintendo wants. But I would hope that it gets a good amount of build up, because as Taker was saying, like the Nintendo did kind of flub Prime Remastered in terms of like not giving it any marketing.
I
I mean,
agree.
it did fine, but I think it could have done a lot better if it had some build up.
I think that game deserves to have more than 1 million in sales.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel right.
it's
to
one
me.
of the best remasters Nintendo's ever produced.
It is. It literally. I mean, like if we're talking about from a critical acclaim perspective, it might literally be the greatest remaster that they have ever produced. I can't think of any remasters that are higher.
Yeah, no, not coming to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think honest. So my perspective is, and now obviously I can be wrong, right? But my perspective is the timing. I don't think it necessarily matters how big or short the window is. I think in general how Nintendo handles marketing for all their games, when they're about a couple months before release, it really kind of kicks into gear with the social media stuff.
Right.
But in terms of us getting like maybe like a trailer of the game beforehand, there's room for interpretation there for how long of a window that is. And so I guess actually when I think about it from that way, I'm kind of changing my mind as I talk. I think that regardless of how Nintendo wants to handle it, I think there's gonna be a trailer. And if it's coming out this year or next year, we're getting a trailer this year no matter what, in my opinion. And then once we're about 2 months from release, they'll kick up the marketing. They'll do the developer diaries or what have you, the social media
Right.
mentions, and that's how I think it's going to go. Now, I do think a lot of what they do for Prime 4 kind of depends on what their plan is. Is Prime 4 part of the
Yeah.
launch window of Switch 2 as a cross-gen title, or is it just a Switch 1 title that's coming out for this holiday? It changes things somewhat, because conceivably we don't see Prime 4 until way later if it's a Switch 2 thing. But regardless, I feel like it basically is two options, right? Either Prime 4 is coming out this holiday, and if so, they kind of have to show it off for like the big direct that showcases the holiday plans. So
Right.
there's that. Or B, it's being saved for the Switch 2 launch window, and when Nintendo decides to start showcasing multiple Switch 2 games, Prime 4 will be a part of that marketing.
Right.
And just disclaimer, Prime 4 will still be a Switch 1 game if it comes to Switch 2. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think that the latest we'll see this game in some form is probably the first time they officially talk about Switch 2. Because either the game is coming out this year to help out with the Switch 1's lineup for this year, or, I mean, in my mind, there's other possibilities, but in my mind, they seem too low. So the only ones I'm considering are it coming out this year for the holiday, help bolster the lineup, or it's coming out early next year as of one of the early Switch 2 games, cross-gen. Either way, I mean, if it's coming out this year, obviously they're going to show it this year, probably in April. And if it's coming out early next year for Switch 2, they probably will talk about it the very first time they talk about Switch 2. And if not directly, we will probably see some kind of teaser of it like we saw for, say, Mario Odyssey with the Switch reveal trailer.
Yeah, that would be epic. I'd be fine with that.
But we'll probably honestly get a little bit more than that, in my opinion, because I think the first time they show off Switch 2, there'll probably be a little bit more than when we got the original Switch.
You know what I would like?
It
I would
depends.
like a Metroid Prime 4 Direct.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we may get one. I don't think it's going to be the way it's revealed,
we
but...
could get a Metroid Prime 4 Direct.
Yeah.
Like, can you so this is what would be wild. Like, I would like it so much. I want it so much that I almost like, hey, give me a Metroid Prime 4 Direct and just screw telling us about the holidays. Like, I don't even care. Just give me a Metroid Prime 4 Direct.
I mean, they can do both.
I mean, they 100% could do both. I don't even want to. I don't want to entertain it too much. It's just kind of an exciting idea. And before someone says it can't happen, I mean, they did a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct.
Yeah.
If they can do a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, why can't they possibly do a Metroid Prime 4 Direct?
I definitely think that
Metroid Dread is a bigger seller than Xenoblade. You know. Now Prime Remastered is basically Xenoblade level sales, but Prime 4 is gonna be bigger than those. I think it gets its own Direct. I mean, I think it warrants its own Direct, I should say. I don't know if that means they will do it like that, and I don't think they need to do it like that. It would just be kind of fun, especially like now. Like, imagine just like next week Nintendo's like, hey, tune in on Thursday for Metroid Prime 4 focused Nintendo Direct. That would just be the most exciting thing ever, because we've been like they've been so quiet about the game for them to find not to just give us a trailer, but they just give us a full Direct. It would just be awesome. But I don't want to like entertain that idea too much. It's just kind of exciting to think about.
I think if they were going to do that, we could maybe see a small trailer in the April Direct, and then they have a Direct the next month or later in the year for it. I don't think they would be like, this is the first time we've even seen the logo, and we're going straight into a whole Direct to tell you everything.
So Jeff Grubb did say he had heard that Metroid Prime 4 marketing is supposed to kick off in May. So what if there is an April Nintendo Direct as rumored? Prime 4 is teased, and then there is a Metroid Prime 4 Direct in May.
It could
and
be.
then in June there is the Switch 2 reveal trailer as rumored, and it's just a teaser trailer, but the teaser trailer includes several games, including the already revealed Metroid Prime 4.
I could see that. I can see that.
But of course, if they do a Prime 4 Direct in May, that would be because the game's coming out.
Yeah,
really soon. Yeah,
probably.
So it's kind of, we can't get both. Not really. It's one or the other. Well, I mean, we can still get a Switch 2 teaser, but it would mean that Prime 4 is not really a part of that. Like, it could get a graphical upgrade, but it wouldn't be the same. I don't think, at least. But I got another super chat here from Sam. Thank you, Sam Talks Games, for the super chat. Sam says, what do you think is going on with Nintendo's 2024? You think they drop Prime 4 this year so they can retain some momentum? 2D Zelda, Fire Emblem, etc. So I'm divided on Prime 4. I'm 50-50, to be honest with you, on that one. I think it'll go either way. I think that Nintendo doesn't need Prime 4 to have a solid holiday. You can make the argument that Prime 4 would help the holiday, but at the same time, with Metroid not being that big of a series, how much of a difference is it really going to make? I think you can look at it from either perspective. You can look at it from perspective, Prime 4 would be the star of the show, and so it would get more sales. You can make that argument. Or you can make the argument that, putting Prime 4 early on for Switch 2, you still get the Switch 1 sales, but you also get the Switch 2 sales, and it gets that evergreen effect of being a part of that launch window for Switch 2. So it kind of goes either way, I would say. I don't know what decisions they're going to make. But I would also say that there are other games Nintendo could put out for the holidays that would likely exceed Switch 1 sales. I mean, Prime 4 sales.
Right.
Like, for example, 2D Zelda. Nintendo could do that. And if it's not 2D Zelda, even a combination Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD, I think that would also sell a handful of million.
Oh, yeah.
So either way, something Zelda I think will do really, really big numbers. I also think that the jury's still out for a mainline Pokemon release this year. People are making the assumption that because they didn't show it in the Pokemon Presents last month that it's not happening. I do not think that's a foregone conclusion. If you exclude Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, all of their Pokemon remakes have been announced towards the summertime, close to the summertime. So that could happen again. And so don't be surprised if it ends up being the case that ILCA, who recently, Pokemon Company just opened a Pokemon related office in the same building as this company, and we get an outsourced game from them for this holiday. I'm just saying it could still happen, and that's going to be a huge seller. So, between stuff like that, maybe Mario Party, a few more remasters, maybe one other surprise game. Like, It doesn't have to be Metroid Prime 4.
No.
And
I
you go, Brandon.
I was gonna say I'm of the opinion that Nintendo should probably save Prime 4 for Switch 2 unless they absolutely need to release it this year. I just feel like it would have such more of a big impact of being a cross-gen Switch 2 game than just coming out on Switch 1 this holiday to help bolster the lineup.
Yeah,
Because I think there's just, as you're saying, there's better games for that, and there's like this is probably gonna be one of the best early showcases for Switch 2, knowing Retro Studios' prowess with graphics.
it's interesting, right? Because one of the arguments for why I think 2D Zelda makes a lot of sense this year, which again is pure speculation, right?
Right.
There may be no 2D Zelda game even in development right now, which I doubt.
That's
but
highly unlikely in my opinion.
I actually have it. I pointed this out in the video from yesterday, but I'll show it a little bit later into the stream. But the argument, one of the core arguments I've made for 2D Zelda being an option for this year, is that it's the kind of game similar to Mario Wonder, where they can put it out for the holiday. People will be very excited to play it and enjoy it, but it's not going to be the kind of experience that people are going to be like, "Oh, I wish this was on Switch too."
Right.
Prime 4, on the other hand, will be.
Yeah. I'm sure it will look great on Switch 1, but I definitely think it will be even more impressive on Switch 2. And I feel like they've probably been working with that in mind for a couple years at least. So I would be surprised if they... Because I do feel like they've had the plan to have it be a cross-gen release for a while.
Yeah.
But 2D Zelda would be nice. I mean, it's been this September will be 4 years since Link's Awakening release, which is the last like major 2D Zelda thing. Because obviously we've gotten like
that was just
stuff on NSO, right? We've gotten stuff on NSO, but nothing else. So we could definitely. There's been enough time for them to make another remake or a new 2D Zelda. I would love to see something 2D Zelda. I feel like that's been something the Switch has been kind of lacking.
Yeah. You know what? I figure since we're talking about, we might as well talk about the 2D Zelda stuff now because we're already in it, right?
Yeah.
Shout outs to Sky Swords Alyssa for being a member for 4 straight months. Thank you for being a member all this time. But let me. I talked about this during the video yesterday, but I'm curious on how you guys are gonna, Brandon, your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Right. So this is an article from Game Informer from February 14th, 2017. I'm assuming you can see it, right?
Yes.
All right, and so they're talking to AJ Numa about the future of Zelda. So remember, this came out before Breath of the Wild launched. Breath of the Wild launched 3 weeks after this point, March
Switch
3rd.
Is not out yet.
Not out yet. And so there's a few interesting quotes here, right? So let's just check this one first, right? So the dev base is not really dependent on how many people are on a team. So combining them would not necessarily expedite the development pace. The 3DS team and the Wii U team have different approaches to game development, so I don't necessarily want to combine them and have them think together, but rather have each think about what they can bring to the Nintendo Switch from their own perspective. Honestly, I don't even feel like I need to read the other stuff, because I think within here it kind of tells, at least from the point I'm trying to make, if you pay attention to what was said just here, they had an intent for the 3DS Zelda team, the team that made A Link Between Worlds, to put something on Switch. Not just a team that made Breath of the Wild.
Right.
So...
And he clearly is stating that they did not get just shoved together. Like, the people who were working on 2D Zelda didn't all just get thrown into to 3D development.
I think a lot of people made that assumption, and here they're saying that's not what happened.
I kind of made that assumption in my head, but yeah, he's clearly saying that's not what happened.
Is it possible that since 2017 those plans have changed?
Oh,
it's
definitely
possible, but we never got, and so you can make the argument that because we never saw the A Link Between Worlds team put out a new Zelda game on Switch, that it didn't happen, that it hasn't been in development. But look at what's happened with Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder was in development without a deadline. People thought the 2D Mario wasn't going to happen just because it took a long time.
It's been a long time since. It's been 10 years.
Do we really want to like make that same assumption again? That just because it's been a long time, it's not going to happen?
Right.
Like, let's
I feel
remind
like
ourselves
since it's been
that
so long, it's
Zelda,
probably getting sooner,
yeah,
getting
2D
ever
Zelda is a
closer.
big deal. 2D Zelda is not like a nothing title.
Mm.
2D Zelda is a big deal. Like, it Link's Awakening remake sold 6.5 million copies. That is a remake for a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
To put that into perspective, a brand new 2D Zelda title has even more potential than that.
10 million plus.
Maybe.
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I would guess. I would hope.
I mean, I think you look at Mario, like maybe it's not as big as Mario. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I don't even want to 2D Zelda could, in theory, rival Mario Wonder sales. Because let's think about it like this: Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom absolutely rival Mario Odyssey sales. Breath of the Wild beat
yeah.
Mario Odyssey sales. So, like I could see 2D Zelda like selling 8 million in less than a year.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's like I think it would be the ideal title to put out before Switch 2. Like, imagine Nintendo announces Switch 2 this year. Like, I think there's something to that idea, right? Like, I think it makes sense because it's the kind of game that you're just not going to be like, you're as I said earlier, you're not going to be thinking, man, I really want to wait for Switch 2 to play this because
Right.
it's the Switch. We haven't even seen them truly maximize 2D Zelda on Switch yet. Like, look at what they did with Tears of the Kingdom. If they could do, if that's what they could do with Tears of the Kingdom on Switch, imagine a 2D Zelda game on Switch. Like, it would be mind blowing. They don't need a new console to do a 2D Zelda and like completely push the boundaries from something we've never seen before.
Oh yeah. I mean, Link's Awakening remake was done by another team, and it looks
Grezzo.
absolutely incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
Grezzo's not a big studio or anything, so like actually having a brand new 2D Zelda from the actual Zelda team, I think it's gonna be very impressive.
Right. Now, I just wanted to clarify something. We don't have any substantial evidence that 2D Zelda is going to happen this year. There's no rumors. All the evidence is that it would make sense.
Right.
Like, but
I would be very happy.
Yeah, like, I guess you could argue that interview I just showed you where Anuma was talking about how the 3DS team wants to do something. I mean, there's actually a little bit more. I stopped sharing it, but I could share. I mentioned this part in the video yesterday, but I'll show you this part as well, just so we can have it here as a talking point. Let me see. Okay, here it says. Here Anuma says the handheld development team will not be phased out because of the Nintendo Switch. So that's a whole other thing, right? But here you say, when asked point blank if there's a possibility that 3DS Zelda teams were working a new game for the Nintendo Switch, Anuma said yes, there is definitely a possibility. Again, this is from 2017. And then here he says this. There are definitely good things about the 2D world and the playstyles of the 2D world. There are also a lot of fans who enjoy that style. This Nintendo Switch style, which is the evolved style of gameplay, is not necessarily. I think there's something else that's supposed to be said there, but it just wasn't. I want you to think of it more as an evolved style 2D style. For the 3DS team, I'm trying to make them think in a more evolved 2D style approach. This last line right here, I think is important. For the 3DS team, I am trying to make them think in a more evolved 2D style approach. So point is, back in 2017, they were working on something to evolve the 2D style. And I don't think Grezzo, which is not the 3DS Zelda team, right? That's just a separate studio that also worked on Zelda, so I understand it's a little confusing. They made a remake of a Game Boy game. That is not the evolved,
very much like the Game Boy game.
Right. That's not an evolution of the series. So whatever they were working on in terms of evolving the 2D Zelda formula, that has not come. We have not seen that yet. So if you wanted evidence, that's the best evidence I could put out there.
Yeah. And just to give you guys an idea of when the last 2D Zelda came out, Link Between Worlds was November 2013. So this November will be 11 years since that game. So we are kind of due.
A lot of people like to say that A Link Between Worlds is kind of a remake. To me, it's a brand new game, but I think they kind of built it off of the original world. I think supposedly they start. I have to look this up, but apparently they started it with
off Link to the Past,
a remake in mind at first. And they turned it into a new experience. But I consider that a new game because it is a new game.
No, I mean,
So
yeah, if Tears of the Kingdom is a new game, then this is even more so a new game.
yes, I would say, yeah, I would say that. I would say Link Between Worlds is more of a new game than in Tears of the Kingdom. If that's weird to say, but yeah, because there was no 3D version of that map before,
Right.
right? So there's that, and then obviously the mechanics, the story, the characters, that's all new and different. So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, anyway, let's put a poll.
Okay.
Does 2D Zelda happen? I know we were hyping it up, right? So try not to get caught up in the hype train, but just like tell me what you actually think. Does 2D Zelda happen this year? Like, I'll be more specific. Does 2D Zelda come out this year? Because hypothetically, they could reveal 2D Zelda this year and it doesn't come out, right?
Right.
Although I would say that's unlikely.
I mean, maybe they could have it as like an early year 2025
they
game
could.
right before Switch 2 comes out.
They could. I'm assuming that no is going to win because there's just a whole bunch of other options. But I am curious, though, because I do think it makes a lot of sense.
I voted yes, but don't let that sway your opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, because, like, for example, if we get 2D Zelda, what does that say for Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD? I have a hard time believing we get both 2D Zelda and Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD.
Right.
In a 6-month span, I might add, right? Because I think we're pretty much past the point of it happening in the first half. Wind Waker, like they could maybe shadow drop Wind Waker or Twilight Princess in for April, but that seems unlikely at this point. So, we'll see. But while that poll's going, Brandon, how about you tell me? Well, what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about our Switch 2 expectations now, or do you want to talk about Animal Crossing?
Let's talk about Animal Crossing.
Okay. I guess I should pull up the rumor.
Yeah.
Okay, give me.
I have seen the rumor, but I'd like to see the information again.
Sure.
Plus, I'm sure there's some people in the chat who haven't seen.
That's true. There we go. Got it. No, I'm not trying to upload a video file. Not today.
Not today.
It is interesting that I can do that, though.
All
right. So, you guys can see this.
Yep.
It's in Spanish. Hold on. Translated. Thank you, Google. All right. So, here Nash Weedle says, Leak Express, the next Animal Crossing is in development, and it will be an ultimate version. Game concepts, move around controlling vehicles, large city with skyscrapers, adventure missions, puzzles, and minigames, more collaborative multiplayer, date 2026 along with the series. I was confused about this at first, but I think this might be an allusion to like an animated or TV series or something like that, which would be really cool, actually.
Yeah.
But there's more details here. Plus more info. Some of these concepts are discarded from the last game. New monetary system within the game. Large shopping center where you can have your own store and sell your designs to other users. And then there's a little bit more info here. Separate city completely online to interact with connected users. This is the basis that was started in a creative brainstorming prior to the start of development. So there's a lot to take away from this. The first thing that stands out to me here, well, one, I actually kind of like Nash Weedle as a leaker because I don't think he does it super often. It's somewhat often, but not like an everyday, all the time thing, right? He just kind of posts and talks about it on Twitter in general because there are leakers that just leak, And this person has talked about things before most other people. Like, for example, enhanced backwards compatibility was something Nashville was talking about months before everyone else. And when I say everyone else, I mean other place sources that are considered to be credible. They are
Right.
not probably not knowingly, but they're corroborating his initial rumors. The same has happened for dev kits being out there. He mentioned dev kits being out there before other sources did, like a month or so later. Also, this is the same person that told us about Metroid Dread, and how it's going to be a 2D Metroid. At E3 when it happened back in 2021. It's the same person. So there is a history here of some rumors coming true and others being corroborated by other places. But of course, we're talking about Switch 2 stuff, so a lot of that's unconfirmed still, right? But it's
Right.
interesting how this person said a lot of things that have been supported by others, at least, and some things that have come true. There have been times when they've said things and we still don't know yet, right? So I wouldn't say this is like 100% believe this person no matter what. This is not a Pioro level leaker. But on the flip
Got
side, they are telling us about things way in advance. That's something Pure never does, right? So
Right.
that's something that should also be taken into consideration. And reminder, when we're talking about things way in advance, even if it's based off real information, it is subject to change.
Definitely.
So, they could change this plan, right? But still, what stands out to me initially is we're hearing about a game in 2026. That's 2 years from
Right.
now. That's a long time from now. How would he get this kind of information? Well, part of his tweet thread here does say this is the basis that was started in a creative brainstorming prior to the start of development. So the implication is that he has some sort of contact with there's some sort of chain of communication. I'm not saying it's, one layer or two layers, I'm not sure. But
Right.
somehow, supposedly, right, this is what he's suggesting, he is privy to the conversations that are happening at Nintendo EPD. Seems a little hard to believe. Even though, like I said before, like everything I've like beforehand, I've been like, oh, seems pretty solid. Just the fact that he's telling us about Animal Crossing plans to this extent, this far in advance, I am skeptical. But that doesn't mean it's not true. I just think I think we should be skeptical. Like that
Oh yeah,
is
always.
that's all I'm getting at with this. That all said, like, what do you make of the actual details of the game? I mean, Brandon, feel free to weigh in if you even think this rumor is true or not. But what do you think?
I think it has it doesn't say anything where I'm like, this seems like a fan wish list or something. Like this all feels like things that Nintendo would naturally think based off of the success of Animal Crossing, like bolstering the online and stuff, because the online was a huge new mechanic. Obviously, you could play online a little bit in like New Leaf and some of the older games. And New Leaf, it was specifically through like the Dream Suite and stuff. You could go visit your friends' islands. But in New Horizons, obviously, that was way expanded. So for them to expand that even more just makes sense, because that was one of the biggest like multiplayer games back in 2020. Oddly
Yeah, I
enough,
mean,
like
Animal
people playing
Crossing
that all
Horizons
the
is one of
time
the biggest
online.
Switch games. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's had a growing audience. Like, if Nintendo's going to go big with a franchise outside of Mario Kart, I think it should be Animal Crossing, from a numbers perspective, at least.
And there are some things where I'm like, uh, maybe this could be considered wish list, but it's hard to say because he doesn't specifically say what they are, like the adventure missions and
My first
things
thought
like
was
that.
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, that's my first thought as well.
And for those who haven't played Stardew Valley, it's very much like Animal Crossing, but it has a few other elements. It has marriage elements. It's like a village. You can get to know the different people. You can find certain. There's a little bit of romance that you can do, but there's still farming and odd jobs and building your house and stuff. But also you
Right.
can go out to the woods and caves. You can find a wizard tower. There's a dungeon. There's layers, and there's like some RPG mechanics. You can fight monsters on top of
Right.
like the typical Animal Crossing lifestyle. Stardew Valley is quite a game, actually. I like the idea of them doing some adventuring stuff. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
you can like go out with a group of friends out into the woods, and maybe there's like a spooky creature you have to like chase around. Like like they kind of have those elements already in Animal Crossing, but kind of like extending them and fleshing them out into like
Right.
actual like side quests and things like that. I think that could vary up the gameplay quite a bit, and it would be something that would probably keep me engaged for more time.
Yeah, I definitely do feel like it would probably operate very similarly to Stardew Valley in the sense that, like, in Stardew Valley, if you want to go do like the RPG, like fighting kind of mission stuff, you go to a very specific place. There's a place in the top of the map. There's a cave. You go down there. That's where you use. That's where all of that mechanics reside. None of that mechanics reside anywhere else in the game other than that part, which I feel like is what they would need to do for Animal Crossing. I feel like that would work pretty well. It would add another layer without taking away from what makes Animal Crossing Animal Crossing. Because I definitely don't think that they should just be like, oh, there's a million mini games and it's an open world Animal Crossing and then there's gonna be monsters running around. No, I just don't think that would be Animal Crossing anymore. But if they added something like a dedicated area where you go, and maybe that's where some of the monetary, because they said there's a new money system, which happens every once in a while in Animal Crossing when there's new things. They add new forms of currency. They've done this before. Maybe that has to do with the dungeon aspect, or maybe that's some kind of multiplayer thing. I'm really hoping that that's not like some kind of hint at like multiplayer microtransactions or something,
I
but I
don't think
don't
there'll
think
be like
so.
microtransactions. This is Nintendo. But Brandon, why do you think I'm sharing this image of Animal Crossing City Folks box art?
Because they very much feel like they're going back to city folk. That was also another thought that I had when I read this, is because he kept talking about vehicles and there's a big city and there's even an online exclusive city where you
Right.
go hang out with your friends, which I think is really cool. It definitely feels like they're taking some inspiration from City Folk, which was previously an expansion on the concept of Animal Crossing back in the day.
Yeah. So like, cause I've noticed a conversation, that this rumor is goes against Animal Crossing, but I mean, if it's just kind of an evolution of some of the concepts they were already working with in City Folk, then it isn't against Animal Crossing.
Right.
Like, I don't think we should jump to the conclusion that um kind of having a city is anti Animal Crossing. I think it depends on how
Oh,
it's done. Now, when you kind of talk about skyscrapers, that does feel like, okay, that seems like a little much, but I don't know, like
it just seems
if
like
there
it's
are
going to be a more modern city.
it depends, right? Like, I mean, just looking at the box art here, right? Like, if there's an area that's more like the traditional Animal Crossing, but there's also an area you can go out that's more city like. And then there's
Right.
also areas that can go out on little adventures, like to different
Right.
islands or the woods or mountains or caves. And so we're just talking about a greatly expanded Animal Crossing world that has just kind of fleshing it out more. We still have the essence of Animal Crossing, but there's other elements mixed in. I don't think that's necessarily anti-Animal Crossing. I just think
No.
it's more Animal Crossing and kind of building upon it.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that the city element goes against it.
No.
I just think that I think it remains to be seen. We need more
Yeah.
info.
I also think that they could add things like mini games without taking away or trying to change what Animal Crossing is. Because in New Horizons, one of the greatest things about that game is you're able to decorate the island itself and put all kinds of things around. And that's cool, but a lot of these things aren't as interactable as maybe you would like, especially if you're playing online. So imagine if like you could have like you could build a basketball court and then you could play basketball mini games with your friends or volleyball or tennis or something, or any kind of like little like mini games that these projects or these customizable things that you're adding to. Well, I assume it's not going to be an island this time. It doesn't seem like it will be, but whatever kind of area you're managing and decorating, I feel like if you assign mini games to these things that you can do with either your animal friends or people you're playing with online, I think that would also add a lot of different cool things that you can do in the game. Because imagine visiting
Yeah.
somebody's island, you're like, oh man, you got the arcade machine out. We can go play a little arcade mini game together, or play some basketball mini game or something. That'd be a lot more interesting than just like, oh, well, look, I got a basketball hoop. It doesn't do much, but it's there.
Yeah. KEG in the chat here says, not sure about driving a car, but riding a bike or skateboard, yes. Yeah, like when they say vehicles, like
Yeah.
what do they mean? I think driving around the car
It'd
doesn't
probably
feel
be pretty. I imagine if there was a car, it wouldn't be like you're going super fast or anything. I imagine you'd be kind of just putting around.
like maybe if there's a city there can be a taxi cab.
Oh, yeah,
Um
maybe that's fast travel or something.
yeah, or maybe there's a trolley. Like I could see a
Ooh.
trolley kind of thing. But otherwise, yeah, like a skateboard I think would make sense. A bike, a scooter, or if there's gonna be a city element, like a moped, because like you know how
Ah,
like have
yeah.
you ever been to a city where they have like the rentable mopeds,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, so I think there's different things like, or you know, if we're going back to the adventuring element, what if there's like a canoeing section? Actually,
Ooh.
imagine if you could get a little canoe, right, or a little raft, and you can go out to sea and go fishing, or go deeper into a pond, or there's like a little river rafts kind of like rapids kind of mini game
Right.
race challenge. Like that's something that I kind of feel like they can do, and that kind of goes into kind of like the camping sort of element that we've gotten from Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
So depending on what the definition of vehicles are, I think it could work. But if we're talking about, oh, we're gonna be like riding in a Maserati, that's a little.
I think
That's
they
not
can
a
make cars work. It just wouldn't really feel like you're driving a car.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, in fairness, I could see them having. I can see you being able to get a Maserati and putting it on display, like in the back of your house or in the front of your
Ooh,
house. Like, hey, look how my fancy car. Like, because you
right.
can put on giant like dinosaur statues, right, or dinosaur
Yeah.
bones, like in front of your house if you want to. I actually have a Tyrannosaurus Rex in front of mine.
Nice.
Like you could do stuff like that. So the concept of having a car there, sure, but being able to actually drive it around, that does seem weird. But other simpler things I think make a lot of sense. I would also say there's something here about throwing pies or something. I
It
forget
was a
where it said that.
birthday cakes or something, right?
Birthday cake. That makes sense to me. Like I don't that like I actually think like you know how like in Animal Crossing like you can like whack your friends with a net or like
Mm,
you can get stung by bees.
right.
I don't think it's that different from like throwing a pie or a cake in someone's face. Like some of those cutesy little comical things. Like I feel like that's kind of building on it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it'd be cool to be able to like throw a party for your friends in Animal Crossing and have more things to actually be able to do.
Yeah. Um I don't I think it would be I like it. I mean I like how this rumor sounds at least.
Yeah, I think
If
it
we should believe it,
definitely.
we'll see, but
I mean, they are going to evolve Animal Crossing. New Horizons was a very big evolution in terms of being able to like customize your island and stuff outside of just your house. And I feel like where do you go from there when you already have full customization of the entirety of the land? Like they have to make some kind of bigger jumps. And these aren't even like anything super radical that's going to like change the entire gameplay. It's just additional nice things that you can do. A lot of it seems to be focused on online, which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. That game sold because people could play it online with their friends during the pandemic. That's one of the big reasons that it sold as much as it
yeah.
did. So, yeah.
Yeah. I want to get back into the chat unless there's something else you want to say
No,
specifically. Okay.
I'm very
Then
hyped though for that.
yeah, no,
Hopefully,
I honestly like if some of the ideas we're talking about had me excited for this.
oh yeah,
And for those that don't know, I'm not the biggest Animal Crossing guy. I will buy it, I will play it, but I ain't putting in 2,000 hours.
right, yeah.
I'll
I probably
put
put in
20 to
100,
30 and
maybe
then
20.
give up after an existential crisis of not doing my chores in real life, but I'll do them in the game. Um, but
Facts.
anyway, Aaron Rass, been a member for 3 months. Glad you've been around all this time, Aaron. Aaron here says, Andres, keep up the great work. Hopeful for a June reveal. Finally got a great job starting in 2 was so I'll be getting the most out of your videos. That's awesome, dude. I'm happy
Hell
for you
yeah.
in the job. And I'm glad you'll be watching the videos. But yeah, a June reveal for Switch 2 would be awesome. And I do kind of feel like that's a solid segue. And then I know there's some things in the chat. I saw some people adding me. I'll get to that. But I want to talk a little bit about the Switch 2 stuff for Brandon, and then we'll kind of just close out with some Q&A.
Right.
But yeah, Brandon. So Switch 2 reports came out. and they've all kind of indicated that there's been this delay, right? Like the plan was for Switch 2 to come out in the second half of this year, but Nintendo all of a sudden was like, you know what? We're gonna push things back. And so with that in mind, like it's gotten to a point where it's not just one or two places. Like Nikkei, Bloomberg, Eurogamer, Video Games Chronicle, like everyone's reporting on it. So it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of hard to doubt it. You know, I guess it's still technically a rumor of a rumor, but and like I always had this hope that, well, maybe they're all wrong and Switch is coming out this year, but I kind of have to now operate under the assumption that it's correct, right? So with that said, you know, there was a rumor, and this is one of those few times I shared something that I had heard because of the track record of who I heard it from, that they've told me about directs in the past, and I don't normally talk about it when they mention it, but you know, it lines up and just different little things. And so I trusted this source, right? And then I heard about the partner showcase, right? And I mentioned, hey guys, there might be a partner showcase, and there was a partner showcase. But I also heard from a similar place that, yeah, Switch review will be happening in March, but this was before the reported delays,
Right.
And so to be clear, I said it before on a live stream or on a couple of videos or comments, but I guess I never made a dedicated. No, I did. I think I did make a video. I did make a video in response to the reports, and maybe in that video, I kind of expressed ambiguity about what would happen in March. I showed doubt, but I maybe I didn't say like, oh, I'm 100% it's not going to happen. I mean, I'm not 100% on anything, just to be clear, but I think this definitely, like, if Switch 2 is shown, this is revealed this month, like, there's a chance, I guess, but now that the Game Developers Conference is starting, I'm kind of thinking no. Like, Nintendo could make some mention of it on social media, but I don't think we're not getting footage or anything like that.
No.
At this stage. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. You know, I think when we were talking about Switch 2 reveal, we were thinking something a little bit more significant. Like, that's definitely been pushed back, I would say. And currently the rumor is June. So the rumor is that there's going to be a general April direct, and then in June there'll be a Switch 2 reveal. Of course, that is subject to change because it hasn't happened yet. So even if we get an April direct, it doesn't automatically mean there will be a Switch reveal in June, but it does maybe increase our hopes of it happening in June. So that is kind of where I stand right now. I don't think a Switch 2 reveal is happening in June. I mean, I don't think it's happening in March, I should say.
Right.
And I am not convinced June is the time either, because Nintendo could, if to say Switch 2 is coming out in March, conceivably, you know, they could, they could wait until October, as they did with Switch 1.
Right.
Some people might even make the argument that because they don't want to ruin sales for the holidays, they'll wait until next year to announce the console. I kind of doubt that, but we'll see, I suppose.
Because something I would like to bring up to see what you think. I'm not even 100% sure how I feel that this fits into the equation, but PS5 Pro is almost certainly going to come out this holiday, right? And it will probably announced within the next couple months, potentially June.
I mean, Switch 2 was almost certainly coming out this year, not too long ago, so.
Yeah, but we haven't heard anything about a PS5 Pro delay. It still seems to be all in track to come out this year.
Right.
So if it does, do you think Nintendo wants to show off Switch 2 to make sure that they have a new console also, like, in the talk? And because PlayStation is going to be the only one with the new consoles here. Like, Microsoft probably won't even come out with an Xbox Series Pro, period.
Yeah.
So it's going to probably be a big deal for Sony, and they may even potentially, depending on how much the Pro is going to be, they could get price cuts for the original PS5 to boost those sales. So Nintendo may not want to not be in the mind share here.
I have always kind of been of the frame of mind that it doesn't really matter. Like I'm sure it matters somewhat, but like I don't feel like Nintendo is going to completely derail and push all of their reveal plans because of a console, especially if it's just a
No,
mid-gen refresh. Like
no,
to
I'm
be
saying that
totally,
they should talk about it.
I understand what you're saying, but
Oh, okay.
what I'm trying to say is I think it goes both ways.
Hmm,
Um, if that makes any sense, right? Like
right.
I think it goes both ways. Like I don't think Nintendo's that concerned about what Sony is doing. I'm sure they are somewhat concerned. I am sure it's part of their plans, but I personally don't see it making that big of a difference. Like I don't think PS5 Pro is going to change anything really. Like
Hmm.
if you're asking my opinion, I feel like PS5 Pro shouldn't even happen. Um
That's
now I
definitely a way of looking at things. I can see that perspective for sure.
it's not that I'm saying people aren't going to buy a PS5 Pro. I expect there are people who
Not
buy a
many
PS5
will.
Pro. Uh, and I bet there are some people who might listen and be like, "Are you crazy? Of course I want a PS5 Pro, man. I want better ray tracing. I want to be able to ray trace and have 60 FPS, like and at 4K. Like and maybe that's why a PS5 Pro makes sense. So you can have kind of maxed out in every direction. You know, you want the best performance, and you want like because right now the way it is, right, you kind of have to choose. Right, do you want to prioritize performance or fidelity?
Right.
You know, with a PS5 Pro, you can kind of do more of both, right? So
Right.
I understand that it does kind of answer to a need, but I also kind of think it's niche. Like,
Oh
how
yeah.
many people does that make that much of a difference for? And so when I see that, I'm just like really like how much of a blip is a PS5 Pro going to make on the market?
I think it depends more on how they adjust their marketing for PS5 normal. Like, if the PS5 Pro comes out, say, at $500, and then the PS5 currently is $400, and the discless is $300, that could be a huge boost for PS5. Absolutely huge, which would potentially take away from people who have money because this is going to come up pretty late in the year, right? So people are still probably going to be recovering by early next year from a big purchase like that. So if they buy a PS5, even if it's not a Pro, they may not be ready to buy a Switch 2 immediately. But at the same time, it's like, how many
At
people
least let
is
it be
that?
known so people can plan their purchases, right? That I guess that's
Right.
your perspective. Well, I'll tell you that I hope you're right. And I guess it would make sense to kind of announce the console before PS5 Pro pre-orders start to happen. So from that perspective, maybe you do announce something by June so you
Hmm,
can combat that.
right. Also, like, Sony's going to be all over the headlines. Everything's going to be about the PS5 Pro unless Nintendo talks about the Switch 2. Nobody's going to be talking about Xbox this year. That's already confirmed. Unless Xbox comes out with something crazy, Xbox is just done for this year. In terms of like mainstream talking, it's not going to happen already. And I feel like if Nintendo, because we're already kind of worried about what the lineup this year is, there probably will be some games to come and help with the lineup for sure. I don't think it's going to be trash, but I also think it's not going to be like something crazy.
It supports kind of like the argument I've been making. Not so like it doesn't have to be 2D Zelda, but it's just kind of like the lineup I'm sort of expecting for the second half is the kind of lineup where we're gonna have games we'll enjoy, but they're not going to be games where we're going to be like, man, I really wish I had a more powerful console to enjoy this game.
Right.
So, like a 2D Zelda, like a Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD, like a Mario Party, like a Black and White 2 remake, or well, 2 remake, but some kind of remake, you know, things like that that people are going to buy, people are going to enjoy. But we're you know we're and that'll be it. So it'll be in a way kind of like on one hand, it doesn't directly compete with like the 4K ray tracing market, right? It's not
Right.
like Nintendo's. You could argue it's a reason to not have Prime 4
Mm,
for the holiday because Metro Prime 4 it seems like the kind of game that you want to have, have all those bells and whistles, right? You want it to be
yeah.
running it at 4K, right? Or and have the HDR, the ray tracing, all those different things at a with high performance. And you're not going to I mean, I'm assuming Prime 4 will be at least be 60 FPS on Switch, 60 FPS on Switch, but I bet it's also
Right.
only going to be 900p. And
Probably.
it'll probably be dynamic.
Probably.
So that's docked, which I would say actually would be pretty impressive for Switch. But it's gonna, yeah. Like I think if Nintendo is gonna be really strategic, like if they're gonna be really strategic, they may not aim for that. But I also, again, as I said earlier, I wonder how much they even care. So I think it's more so about just showcasing Switch 2 better, like in
Right.
however they go about doing that, right? If they think Prime 4 fits into that conversation, great. If they don't, then it comes out this year. I think it's really that simple.
Yeah, but I do feel like we probably will see Switch too sooner than later. I would hope, just because I really don't want Nintendo to, because their momentum has been going down lower and lower each year for the past several years, and also the mind share of like Nintendo hype. Obviously, Nintendo fans have been fine. Like we're over here chilling. We're always talking about Nintendo, having fun, have great things to talk about. But I do feel like the mainstream gamer has kind of stopped thinking about the Switch in a way. Like a lot of people are big on their PS5 or PC, and that's where I see a lot of the discussion. Like Switch is just kind of more an afterthought, a nice companion console at this point. If you're buying one, Nintendo wants that to be the case. I think Nintendo needs to have a bigger mind share
Yeah,
for gamers, like leading up to the Switch 2.
yeah. Um, Captain Doge in the chat brings up something interesting. So Captain Doge says Nintendo Forecast, which is a YouTube channel and a good one. I've seen a few of their videos. I like it. Said made a pretty good video on why Nintendo is probably not releasing it later this year. He talks about the economy in Japan and Taiwan, major supplier, and how it's all affected. Yeah. So basically, the concept is that the value of the yen, like depending on when Nintendo decides to do manufacturing, mass production of the consoles, what they spend, like they may end up losing out on money if the value of the yen rebounds.
Mm,
Now, I obviously, they're going to have to make some sort of calculated decision and estimate and prediction on how things are going to go with the economy and all.
right,
But at the same time, they can't just wait forever until they are like,
right,
oh, you know what, the value of the yen's now at a good point after 3 years of waiting. There
right.
is a point where like, hey, we just have to release this thing.
Yeah, they
So
have obligations. I'm sure Nvidia
yeah,
doesn't want them to delay this product forever. They make a ton of money off of it. I'm sure that Nintendo is not the only company considered. There's third parties, there's Nvidia, there's other companies that aren't necessarily that are working on third party games, that are working on first party games, but for Nintendo, who still need to make money off of those games. Like they're not Nintendo, so they can not a lot of them can't necessarily hold projects for forever because their studio needs to make money. So there's just a lot of considerations that are beyond just Nintendo. That means they can't delay it forever. I think they could probably get away with delaying it again, potentially till like holiday 2025. But I really feel like that's the latest. Otherwise, they're gonna start running into some issues.
oh man, I don't want to get into that because I just kind of feel like it's just every time we get close, it's like, oh well, now this seems more reasonable. It's like once upon a time, 2023 made sense. It's like, oh well, 2024 always made sense, and now that we're in 2024, oh, 2025 always made sense, and then by the time we got
I
to
don't think
March, like
2025 always made sense. I'm just going to push back against that
I
immediately. I don't think
understand.
2025 makes sense at all. I think
I'm
this
just
year makes
saying
way more sense, infinitely more sense than releasing it next year.
it's just, but you know what I mean, right? It's just kind of like as time progresses, people are like, well, yeah, this has always made more sense, and we'll be in 2026, and now, 2027, yeah, it always made more sense.
It always
2020,
made sense.
yeah, it's gonna be 2020, it's gonna be 2046. Oh well, 2047 always made more sense. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, we'll see whenever it happens, it happens, I guess. But
Yeah. I think the difference
yeah,
between those and now is I think Nintendo was actually planning to release it this year. Like concrete plans, working with developers, games planning to ship. Like they had everything in motion, whereas before it was more just conceptual, so they can change it a lot more easily. I think this time around it was a much bigger deal to push the Switch because they had to tell the developers, hey, you know those sales you were going to rely on this year on Switch 2, you know that money you were going to make off this game you've invested millions and millions of dollars for years? Yeah, you're not going to get any of that for another like 6 months at least. And then we might delay it
Yeah.
again for another 6 months, but keep making games for our system. We definitely are not screwing you over. We want your third parties. We're not going to make you mad, but we're also going to delay this console so you're not making any money for months and months.
Yeah. There's something else to point out, though, right? Because you mentioned like Nintendo, waiting to release the Switch 2 for a number of reasons, right? Be it maybe PS5 Pro to get the launch lineup ready because they want to wait for the value of the yen to rebound. There's a number of possible factors. Let's remind, like, specifically focusing on kind of like the value of the yen portion. They can't wait, even if that is truly the reason. They can't wait like for a significant amount of time. One, because they're just going to start losing money, just by waiting and not having business. But also, whatever losses they might have, they can kind of salvage by having newer versions of the console come out later. The same way it happened for Switch. Like the original Switch got phased out after like 2 years. They had I don't know when it went out of print exactly, but in 2019, they not only did they launch the Switch 1, but they had a version 2 of the Switch Lite. They had the Switch Lite, but they also had the version 2 of the Switch. It was running, in better internals, more efficient battery life. It was actually cheaper for them to make that Switch, and so they actually improved their margins by having actually a better console after 2 years. So, my basic point is that if Nintendo's already anticipating that after 2 years, they're probably going to have some sort of quiet revision anyways, you can't wait, 3 years just because of the value of the yen, because you're probably going to be able to have manufacture more consoles to make up for that anyways.
Plus, the longer they wait, the less hype there is for the system, and the less general people are thinking about this Nintendo in general. So, like, I just don't think it makes sense to keep pushing forever, because even if, like, let's say they make a little bit less because the value of the yen on each console, they're still going to be making way more money overall because they're starting a new platform, which is going to be heavily invested in with games and accessories and online memberships and all this other things that people are going to be paying for that will easily make up for that loss anyways. And I feel like having it sooner than later means you have more time to build up that audience and start getting because if you put out a game early in a console's life, there's a lot less people to buy that game. So the more time you have before you release some of these bigger games, the more install base you have. And the longer you wait, the less install base you're going to have by that time. And so there's a lot of reasons why I feel like it doesn't make sense to wait longer.
Yeah. I'm going to take this opportunity to transition to the chat, but I still think it continues the conversation. So, like, the real J-Stone here actually brings up an interesting point, right? So they say, remember Advance Wars Reboot Camp? That game was delayed for a year, and consequently the game's hype died down by the time of release and flopped.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with that statement. I think we don't actually know how well it would have sold, but I do kind of have the sense that it did lose some momentum, not only just because of the wait, but also when it came out, it wasn't better. It wasn't a better time for it.
No.
They put out Advance Wars and then immediately had Future Redeem come out for Xenoblade, and then immediately after Tears of the Kingdom. It was the worst time to put it out. I would argue. Like, yeah, like, I bought the game. I haven't finished it though. Why haven't I finished it? Because I played Future Redeemed. I prioritized new Xenoblade content. I finished that, and then I finished it by the time Tears of the Kingdom came out. Like, I finished it after Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I was finishing the very end so I could play Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
So, like, it was just a bad time. And I'm someone who plays games a lot, right? Now, of course, I'm an adult. I have responsibilities and all of those different things. So
Right.
I don't have as much time as some people, but I'm definitely above average, in terms of playing games and getting them done with some level of speed. And so if I'm an above average, person at completing games quickly, and I didn't have the time to play Advance Wars because of both Xenoblade and Zelda, what does it say about the masses, right? So yeah, I agree. They kind of botched that one. And yeah, so I do think delaying things sometimes just because of delaying things to ensure quality is one thing. But delaying things out of fear of, say, oh, well, the PS5 Pro is coming, and it's, like, that doesn't matter to me.
No.
I don't think that's like, what if you wait 6 months, all of a sudden there's another pandemic and you can't even release a console anymore? Like,
Facts.
I don't know. There's a lot of factors. Moving on, I'm kind of trying to catch up because there's definitely several things I missed earlier in the chat that I wanted to get to. Let's see here. Oh, I think I found some of them. Okay, yeah, these are the ones I want to get to from earlier. So Days of Old added me. Considering the fact that both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask were remade on the Nintendo 3DS, do you think we'll get a remake remaster of those titles this year? Considering the fact that both Ocarina and Majora's Mask were made on the Nintendo 3DS. So I do not think we're getting either of those this year.
No. To be clear, I don't think the 3DS versions of those games will pretty much ever leave the 3DS. I think that's their home. They were good remakes for the 3DS, but I don't feel like the work used would translate at all to a Switch version, especially not now. Like with the Switch 2 being so close. I just don't. Why? No?
Yeah.
No.
So if you've heard me talk about this before, right, or if you've heard others, the main idea behind remaking, say, Ocarina of Time, when I say remake, that doesn't mean taking the 3DS version and just kind of improving a little bit. It means basically rebuilding the game, at least visually, in a way that looks like a modern Zelda game.
Right. The visuals would be ground up.
Right. It would be made. It would be made with modern technology, as if it's a new game of today. And this wouldn't be done for Switch. It would be done for Switch 2 as a first or second year title to showcase the hardware and to bring in the Zelda fan base while we wait for a bigger Zelda that's going to come out years later. That would be the concept behind it. And I think, if they do that for Ocarina of Time, it does open the door for Majora's Mask as well. So I do think they could happen, but I do not think they're going to happen on Switch, and it's definitely not going to be this year. Yeah. Link Exists asks me, they might even hold on to these smaller 2D games to be exclusive because game development is getting so much longer. I do think Nintendo for example, it's possible that 2D Zelda games have been done for a long time and Nintendo's just been sitting on it and they're just waiting for what they feel is the right time to put it out. That's totally conceivable because we've already seen several of examples of Nintendo taking an extra long amount of time to polish a game or literally just sitting on a game. I mean, we just mentioned Advance Wars. They sat on that game for a while. Fire Emblem Engage, they sat on that for a while. Metroid Prime Remastered, they sat on that for a while. I've heard some rumors that Princess Peach Showtime's been done for a long time too. I think that one's up for speculation. But the point is, we've seen plenty of evidence already that Nintendo does kind of hold on some of their games. So I don't know if that's because specifically of some of their other games taking longer, but I do feel that you just kind of look at how the Switch era has gone. It does kind of seem that the expectations of when we expect certain games has been lengthened. And it kind of feels not as bad because the way things work now, we just have more consistent releases. So we have a lot more to enjoy in between. But for example, we're currently experiencing the longest gap between 3D Marios ever. The gap between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom was the longest gap between 3D Zeldas ever, and we thought it would be shorter because they were working on a direct sequel, yet it ended up being longer. And these are just some examples, right? Like we've seen a lot of the longest gaps ever between certain major entries. And I do think that is a product of the times. I do think that's a product of development becoming bigger and more ambitious. But I also think it's a product of Nintendo having such a healthy development ecosystem right now where they have an embarrassment of riches, really, where they can afford to have games that are just done and they're just kind of waiting for the right time to put them out or the wrong time to put them out in the case of Advance Wars. Like it's kind of like actually, yeah, like it's Nintendo has so many games that they can in theory put out that we're seeing examples of where they kind of have to squeeze in something where it doesn't belong. Like it, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So it doesn't mean that the bigger games are Nintendo's getting them done quicker, but it just means that overall Nintendo has a strong output of they have a strong output of overall content. But yes, I do agree that it does seem like it's taking them longer to make some of their bigger games. But I'm just not sure if that has to do purely with development or just because they can afford to wait or be patient. They don't have to rush out Metroid Prime 4. They don't have to rush out Tears of the Kingdom. They can spend an extra year or two polishing it up, making sure it's as good as possible.
I definitely think it's the latter. Like, I don't think these games, like if Nintendo wanted to, they could probably make these
Siri
games.
Started talking to me. It scared me.
They could probably have come up with these games several years earlier, and I think the difference is that they want the game. They spend a lot more time, I feel, in both the concepting stages of games and the polishing stages. Whereas I feel like a lot of games nowadays focus solely on the in between. They're like, oh, we gotta make the game, and that's most of the time. And then as soon as the game is playable at all, we gotta release it now. We'll finish it later. They don't do polishing stages, and their concepts are pretty much just a lot of times they're recycled. Let's be honest. A lot of third parties these days don't do anything new. They're not coming out with crazy new wacky ideas. Some of them are, and some of them are doing great. But a lot of them is very basic. You don't need years and years and years coming up with crazy concepts like Nintendo does. So I feel like the concepting and polishing stages for these other games is so much shorter, and Nintendo focuses on those. And that's why we see games coming out for third parties that don't work. Just straight up don't work. The Star Wars Battlefront collection, I was so hyped when that got announced. I called that.
You did.
I called that.
You
and
did.
It is probably one of the worst
Hold on a second.
remasters I've ever
Sorry. You continue talking, but...
All right. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the worst remasters I've ever seen. First of all, it's not even really a remaster. It basically looks almost the exact same as the original game. Secondly, so the original games were like about 3 gigs each, and then this collection of both of the games is 73 gigabytes. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? And then the game didn't even work. Like, you could not get in because they only had 3 servers, which could only hold 60
right back. Just give me 1 second.
Cool.
All right.
So they only had 3 servers, right? 64 people each. That's less than 200 people. And this game sold tens of thousands of copies, like, right as soon as it launched. Like, nobody could play the game. It was 70 gigabytes when it really should have been, like, less than 10. And it wasn't even really a remaster. It was, like, less of a remaster than freaking Skyward Sword and Wind Waker HD and things like Nintendo's very basic remasters. It's less than that. So, yeah. Let me go see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yeah, the Captain
drowning?
collections make me so sad. Huh? Drowning? Nah, I'm good. Just reading the chat. People are reading.
My grandma was got up and thought it was the morning, and someone came to pick her up. I was like, "Grandma, it's 10:30 at night." Yeah,
You'd be like that sometimes.
She's 96. So, so what's going on?
I was talking about an example of third-party games being not finished. about the Star Wars Battlefront collection. Have you seen how bad that is?
I didn't. I didn't even look into it.
So first of all, the game's not really a remaster. Like it's probably less of a remaster than like Nintendo's Zelda remasters.
Well, first of all, technically a remaster is just like an enhancement of a prior work. So if it's enhanced in any way, it's been remastered.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. Has it been enhanced though, or has it degraded?
All right. Well, I
Because
mean,
the game does not function. I mean, in terms of visuals, it's basically exactly the same from what I've seen. I don't think they really modified anything. You can run it at a higher resolution technically, but not really, because it was a PC game, so you could already do that. So, I mean, maybe it supports like ultra wide and things like that. So it's like, oh, cool. But for the most part, like, no version of this game is good. The Switch version, the Xbox version, the PlayStation version, the PC version, none of them are good. I don't know if you heard me say it, but to give you context, the original games, I'm not sure if it's both of them or individually. But
oh no, but I'm going to buy it now.
They're about 3 gigabytes, right? How many gigabytes do you think the Star Wars Battlefront collection is?
21.7 gigabytes.
Way more.
Oh
Several
man.
times more.
On Switch?
I at least on PC, I think it's about the same on Switch, but I'm not sure. I mean, every version of this game is basically the same version, right? Because it's games that came out in the early 2000s. It's not like the PC version has like better textures or things. But yeah, the game is 73 gigabytes.
Again, on Switch?
I don't know. I know that's on PC.
Right. But they could have compressed it for Switch, maybe.
Maybe?
That's a lot, dude.
I doubt it's a reasonable size, though. The game should be like 3 to 5 gigabytes.
The Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection?
Yes.
Oh, it's only $35. $35 and 1 penny. It's an odd price to have. It doesn't even say it's discounted. That's just like the price.
1 cent.
Maybe they price it that way because they want to. All right, so it says required space 33.6 gigabytes,
which is still insane.
Which is still insane.
But it is about half of what the PC requires. So that's
well, it probably doesn't need to have 4K textures. Maybe that's why. Maybe it just has lower res textures.
I don't think the textures are different because I don't think they even upgraded the textures from the original version. Maybe. Maybe. Either way, it should not be 30 gigabytes. It should be like maybe 5. These are games. I mean, literally, the games
Are
back
you kidding
in the day
me, man? It's Star Wars. It's about Star Wars.
I need all the stars.
It's super advanced. It's got to have all the gigabytes.
And then, like, when the game
I'm actually surprised it's not 33 terabytes. Come on.
When the game came out, nobody could play it because guess how many servers they opened? Keep in mind, there's 64 people to a server.
6.
Half that, 3. 3 servers.
I don't understand. So it
was literally unplayable garbage.
So you're saying that less than 200 people were able to play online?
Yes.
Day one?
Yes.
At a time?
Yes.
And this is servers across all platforms?
I don't know. I don't sure if it's.
I mean, regardless, what you're explaining to me sounds like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
essentially it was unplayable mess that was way too big.
They're not getting my $35 and 1 penny then.
Facts.
But I mean, it's probably better now, though, right? They probably fixed it with some patches.
I do think there's a lot more servers now, so I don't think it's as bad. But okay. I don't think they fixed the file size issue.
No, I mean it says 33 gigabytes, so I don't feel like downloading that.
No,
so I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's unfortunate. All right. Well, thanks for warning me about the game I probably wasn't gonna buy anyway.
I was gonna buy it actually. I really wanted to buy it.
I mean, I'm not even. I don't know. It's kind of cool, but yeah. Checking with the chat though. We're gonna start wrapping up now. Though, by the way, everyone. So final questions and chats. Put them in now. We're wrapping up here. The real J Stone had added me. Remember, Advance Wars. That I think I read this earlier, right? Yeah, I read this earlier actually. This is about Advance Wars being delayed. Alizi Aragoni asks me, remember, and I asked you on stream a while ago about the potential release of Endless Ocean for Switch. I can't believe I guessed it before the rumors popped. Are you buying it? First off, props to you for Endless Ocean Luminous prediction. And yes, I am buying Endless Ocean Luminous. I am buying this new Nintendo game that has cool giant sea creatures and exploration and 64 players online and
Yeah.
hopefully more than 3 servers day one. So
Facts.
yeah,
Yeah,
that I'm excited for Endless Ocean. Yeah, I plan on playing it.
I'm gonna get it. I don't think I would have gotten it if it didn't have online, but I want to play online.
You know, it'd be wild if we can do a stream of Endless Ocean and like we can have 64 people
Yeah.
from the stream playing at the same time. I don't know if that's actually possible, but that would be really cool. Like it might be. It might be. I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna work,
I
but
would.
it I don't maybe. So yeah,
I imagine you
that'd
can
be
just set
crazy.
a room and a password and then just give the password to your stream.
All right. So since we're in the last few minutes, right? Um, what should be the extra rule for the Great Sky Island for the stream on Thursday?
Mm.
All right. So let me think. All right. No fuse, if that's even possible. I want to put no water, but I'm not sure it's even possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
No clothes. Some people suggested a pacifist run, but I like killing things, so I don't know about that.
Only part of the game would be able to be done that way, unless you did some kind of glitching.
I gotta hug Ganondorf to submission. Um, no fuse, no clothes. What else? I want to think of something more interesting. No eating.
Ooh, no eating would be tough.
No eating would make it tougher. Yeah,
It's essentially just no healing.
right. Captain Toad says no wife. So what do I do to? I mean, Zelda's not my wife yet. Kick Smooth is saying no auto build. Well, this wouldn't work on the Great Sky Island. Like I'm talking about the beginning of the game, but that is an
Right.
interesting rule to have. Um,
I was kind of thinking, but this would only work like later into the game. But what if you had to build something to move? Like you couldn't just walk. You had to build something and get around on that at all times.
like a bike.
Like anything. But you had to always build something, and if it broke, then you had to stop and build something else, and then keep going.
Yeah, it'd be funny. I'm seeing here Captain Dojo also said no girlfriend. It'd be funny if I had a wife or a girlfriend. I had to break up with them just for the stream because Sky Guys is the rule. Gotta break up with you. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Secretly, we've both been doing this challenge this entire time. That's why we're both single.
yeah. It's tough, but I like playing in hard mode.
Yes, sir.
No fuse, no clothes, no eating, no water. Don't do it. I'm scared of people voting no water because I don't even know I could beat this Great Sky Island with that. Oh, I will let my fate be decided by you all.
What
Don't
if
screw me
you?
over, fam. What? You gonna save me by giving
Trying
it
to
a better
think.
option than no water?
What if you have to defeat every enemy you see, no matter what?
Oh,
I don't know if that'd be possible though, because there's so much big draw distances.
actually,
It's
I
like
kind of
what if you
like that.
saw it
I
an
actually
enemy
like
too
that.
far away?
Must kill.
Mm.
Instead of a pacifist run, genocide run.
Genocide run, yes.
Yes, I love it.
The genocide run. Let's go.
I put it in parentheticals. Pick this one, please. Yes, please pick genocide run. That just means killing everything in sight in the Great Sky Island. I would love that. That's like an easy one. Oh wait, who's picking no clothes? Who wants to see the nude? We'll see. We'll see. If anything, we could pick that with the genocide run. It could happen later. So I also can
Right.
still kill almost everything if it's not genocide. That's just, be fine. Oh, that's. Oh, come on. Why? Why? Taker 6 time with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. But says you have to play with your toes. I don't.
Ooh.
I don't.
And you gotta put those puppies on camera. Show us them toes.
I don't
Gotta
know
put them up
about
on
that.
feetfinder.com.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of funky.
No, that is kind of gross.
I'm a grown man. I don't think people want to see my feet.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
There's a lot of weirdos out there.
I mean,
Don't mean to kink shame them.
I'm a clean person, but it just seems weird. I'm saying I have nothing to be ashamed of, but it'd still be weird.
Right.
Cap no, just saying you get
I'm
more.
saying you
super
gotta
chats,
pay
that's
for those
sure.
babies.
Yeah.
Gotta put them up on.
Yeah, I
Feetfinder.
guess I don't want to sell my body. Yeah. Looks like Genocide Run is winning. I'm happy with this. Well, No Clothes is doing solid though. No Clothes is, there could be an influx right at the end. No, KG, don't no.
I just thought of something. I don't think it would be practical, but an interesting idea is if you played Tears of the Kingdom and you could only eat if you prepared that food in real life. Like you had to take the ingredients in real life and prepare the food ahead of time. And then when Link eats it, you also have to eat it. So if you were full and you can't eat anymore, too bad. No heals.
Oh, that is interesting.
I don't think that'd be very practical, but that's just an idea I came up with at the top of my head. And I think if somebody did that, that'd be epic.
Yeah, it's been brought to my attention that the no clothes part is not clear. Did I mean no clothes in the game or in real life? I meant no clothes
maybe that's why people are picking it. I think you're gonna get a little spicy.
I mean running around in my underwear in Tears of the Kingdom. I don't mean running around in my underwear in real life.
Oh,
I think that would be an interesting challenge.
Not sad.
And it'd be funny though if there was like a bet what I made during a stream. It's like, oh, if I don't kill this Lionel, I have to take my shirt off or something. Like there could be. We could mix it. We could we could make it interesting, right? Like maybe I could even take shots every time I die, right? Or I take off a piece of clothing. Like we could make it interesting.
Eat something nasty or something.
Yeah.
You could get those beans. You know those beans where it's like either a good flavor or a really nasty flavor, and you gotta so it comes with like a little wheel, and you flick it, and then it's like, okay, you gotta pick this color, and it could be like popcorn, or it could be like snot, and you don't know which one it is because they all look the same. I think it's Bamboozled. That's the name. Yeah, you should get some Bamboozled.
I kind of like. I think I like the direction we're going here, but I'm also getting a little scared. I'm getting a little scared because this is gonna be a challenge run. I'm gonna die a lot.
Right.
Like just playing the game in 4 hearts, I'm gonna die a lot. Like I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to finish the game. We're adding a new rule each stream. Something I think I forgot to mention. I think I mentioned it. Every time I get, I don't know, maybe I wanted to mention it. I almost did, but I didn't. Every time I get a sage during this run, I get to remove a rule.
Oh, okay. You did not mention that.
I did not mention that. I get to remove a
good rule, though. I like that.
Because I'll get to remove a total of 5 rules, and I'm probably going to stream more than 5 times. Like, it's probably going to... This is a big game. Like, I'm not going to just play it just to get to Ganondorf. I'm going to be playing it just to kind of fully explore the game live. And so this is probably going to be a series that'll go on for a while. I might stream it twice a week or something, and there'll be different challenges. And maybe there will be a day where if I lose a bet, I have to stream with my shirt off, and then you get to enjoy my pecs. Or I really don't like the idea of the toe cam, right? I'm not a fan of that. But if things get really hectic, oh man, who wants that? Who? Oh damn it! No clothes started winning. No clothes in the game.
In the game, guys. In the game.
No clothes in the game. Oh God. All right. I'll let the
Well, at
poll
least
go
no
on.
Fuse is it gonna win, because I feel like that would probably be the hardest one.
There's like no hope at this point. Yeah.
Oh Jesus! Oh my God! I'm watching it shoot up in real time.
Why? But we're talking about. Are you guys trying to send a message? It's in the game.
They're like, no, we need you to get naked on stream.
That's that. I'll get banned. Get banned. I'll be
Yeah,
done.
yeah. You don't have to get all the way. You gotta be like those new Twitch streamers. They put
but this
like
is not
green
Twitch, though.
screens on their.
On Twitch, they would probably ban me. They would ban me.
No, on Twitch.
Like, hey, check this out.
Everybody's doing the meta, so on Twitch, everybody's figuring out how to get around it. So you gotta be like those streamers who put like green screens on like their private areas, and then like they stream the game to those.
First of all, when I'm playing the game, I use a little square. Like you can't even see that much of me. You know, just show a little piece.
Nah, you need full screen camera and then green screen over like your pecs, and that's where you're gonna see Link. He's gonna be on your abs.
Anyway, moving on. Sam Talks Games with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Sam asks, do you think we can see a new multiplayer 2D Zelda soon? Usually happens late in the system's life. Watch they announce like a Four Swords game. I'd be down.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about a 2D Zelda coming out this year, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a mainline one. It could be a multiplayer one.
Yeah, be fun. I'm down for it. Certainly possible.
I would take either one. Probably prefer a mainline because it's been the longest since we've had one of those. But
it'd be better
because we have Triforce Heroes after Link. Worlds.
Like I could see I could see a Four Swords game happening as like a post Switch 2 launch Switch 1 game.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, and also at this point, launching a new multiplayer game like right before a new system is kind of odd choice. But I guess it would probably work on both. So
it would. Yeah, it would. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna end the poll now. So, all right. Polls. I ended the poll. Didn't leave it up for too long. What should the extra rule for the Great Sky Island be? No clothes in the game. No clothes in the game. Okay, but we'll make it interesting on Thursday, and perhaps there'll be some sort of challenge or bet that conceivably I could lose clothes, but it'll have to be a fan request. We'll see, but I'll ponder upon it. I'll make some sort of announcement maybe tomorrow about the stream and the full plans of the stream. I want to make this interesting and engaging. Like I don't want just to be a one-time thing. I want there to be a new engaging rule or sets of challenges that it's just going to make it fun each time. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. But Brandon, any closing thoughts for the evening?
You know, you put me on the spot, and I got nothing to say. Absolutely nothing.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's unfortunate, but it's also great. Sam in the chat says Grezza can do the multiplayer Zelda while EPD does a new 2D Zelda. That's possible. Yeah. Captain Jode's suggesting I do a Samus cosplay. That'll be neat. I don't even know how that works. But
sure. Zero Suit Samus, though.
Oh no! I was thinking about like
gotta see you in like something real tight.
I am not doing that. No. I'm sorry. That ain't happening. That is not happening.
I'll do it, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah. Fun fact: I am not a fan of Zero Suit Samus cosplays.
Oh wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, not a fan of it. I'm not like. It's not like I see someone cosplaying as Zero Suit. I'm like, oh, how dare you do that? It's just kind of more like, you know what I think? I think what it is for me, I see a lot of people cosplaying as Zero Suit Samus, and I'm like, okay, this is like a popular like costume for people to wear, but I know Metroid's not that big of a series.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably not Metroid fans.
I feel like it's more of a Smash thing. Like, oh, there's this girl in Smash Brothers that wears this suit. Yeah. No, I'm obviously, there are people who are hardcore Metroid fans that do cosplay as Zero Suit Samus, but it just feels like a really popular costume for not that popular. Like Zero Suit Samus is not even in every Metroid game,
Right.
So it's just a little bit of a.
The
I
amount of people who
question
cosplay Zero Suit
that.
versus the actual cosplay is not even close.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you don't see as much Samus cosplays as you see as Zero Suit Samus cosplays. Of course, Zero Suit Samus is that's sex appeal, right? Um,
Right.
Power Suit Samus
Probably also
is
easier.
is actually super sex appeal because how
Yes.
is that not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life? I mean, look at those
Dominatrix.
shoulders, look at the chest plate, look at the arm cannon, look at the glistening armor and colors. Like, how is this not the most beautiful creature of all time? But yeah, jokes aside, I am never gonna cosplay as Zero Suit Samus. No, it's not happening. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say never, but
Never say never.
never. I'm not gonna say never. Okay, I'll take back the never, but I probably will not ever. It's extremely unlikely. So there you go. I mean, yeah, you would have to really I would have to go like a downward spiral of really bad bets. Like there would have to be a series of really bad bets that I lose, where I'm like, oh, I guess I got to be a man of my word. So,
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much it. But anyways, all nonsense aside, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for those who like the stream. If you're new here, subscribe. But we'll see you soon. Tears of the Kingdom stream this Thursday. It's gonna be wild. Or Kingdom. It's gonna be Kingdom. All right. I'm done. It's too late in the evening. I'm already making terrible jokes. But all right. Have a good night, everyone. See you later.
Bye, guys.